to White Canvas Players in Our Production, The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde.
Alright, some quick things before we get started. The exit, it's that same door that you came in through. To get to the restrooms, you're going to go out that hallway, men's down that way, women's is down that way. We are going to have a 10-minute intermission after Act 1, and that is the only intermission we're going to have.
Also, keep in mind, everybody, tonight we are recording. There's a camera in the back, so just if you're going to leave in the middle of the show, make sure you do so as quietly as possible. Try to keep side conversations to a minimum, and be careful of the equipment that's around as far as mics are concerned.
And also just take a chance to make sure that your cell phones are on silent, everything is good, and enjoy the show.
Did you hear what I was playing, William?
Didn't think you'd like to listen, miss.
Well, I'm sorry for your sake. You know, I don't play with great accuracy. Anyone can play with accuracy, but I do play with a wonderful expression. As far as music is concerned, sentimentality is my forte. Lane, did you get those cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, miss.
By the way, I see from your books that on Thursday, when Mr. Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, 8 bottles of champagne are entered as having been consumed.
Yes, miss. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that at the bachelor's establishment, the house staff invariably drink the champagne? I merely ask for information.
I attribute it to the superior quality of the wine. I've often observed that in married households, the champagne is rarely of a first-rate brand.
Good heavens, is marriage so demoralizing as that?
I think it's a very pleasant state. Although I've had very little experience with it myself, I've only been married once, and that was due to a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I don't know that I'm much interested in your family life, Lane.
No, it's not a very interesting subject. I never think on it much myself.
Very natural, I'm sure. That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, miss. Mr. Ernest Worthing.
Ernest, my boy, how are you? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere?
Hmm?
No. Oh. Yes.
No!
Eating as usual, I see, Algie.
I believe it's customary in a good society to take a slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in town, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who do you amuse?
Oh, neighbors.
Oh, got nice neighbors in your part of Shropshire.
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
Elementally, you must amuse them. By the way, Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Shropshire, yes, of course. Why all the cups? Why the cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who's coming to tea?
Merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
How perfectly delightful.
I don't think Aunt Augusta will much approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It's almost as bad as nothing romantic about proposing. It's very romantic to be in love, but there's nothing romantic about a definite proposal. One may be accepted, and one usually is, I believe, and then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I'll certainly try to forget the fact.
I have no doubt about that, Algie. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
There is no use speculating on that. Divorces are made in heaven. Please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They're ordered specially for Aunt Augusta.
But you have been eating them the whole time.
That's a different matter. She's my aunt. It's the bread and butter. The bread and butter's for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is devoted to bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter it is too.
Okay, you don't have to eat it as if you were going to eat it all. You behave as though you were married to her already. You are not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth do you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it right.
Oh, that is nonsense.
It isn't. It's a great truth. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over the place. In the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent.
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn and I have been brought up together ever since her adoption, and before I allow you to marry her, you will have to clear up the whole question of Cecily. Lane!
Cecily? What on earth do you mean? I don't know anyone of the name of Cecily.
Lane! Bring me the cigarette case Mr. Worthy left last time he dined here.
Yes, miss. Do you mean to tell me you've had my cigarette case this whole time? I wish to goodness you would let me know. I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was merely offering a large reward.
Well, I wish you would. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
There's no point offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
I think that's rather mean of you, Ernest. However, it makes no matter, for now that I look at the inscription inside, I find the thing isn't yours at all.
Of course it's mine. You've seen me with it 100 times. Besides, you have no right whatsoever to read what is written inside. It is a very ungentlemanly thing to read a private cigarette case.
It is absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should and shouldn't read. More than half of modern culture depends on what one shouldn't read.
I'm quite aware of that fact, and I don't propose to discuss modern culture with you. That isn't the sort of thing one should talk about in private. I simply want my cigarette case
Yes,
back.
but this isn't your cigarette case. This was given as a present by someone of the name Cecily. You said you don't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt.
Yes. Charming old lady she is too, lives at Tunbridge Wells. Just give her back to me.
And so why does she call herself Little Cecily if she is your charming little aunt who lives at Tunbridge Wells?
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. Surely that is a matter that an aunt may be allowed to decide for herself.
Yes, but why does she call you her uncle if she is your aunt who lives at Tunbridge Wells? Little Cecily, with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. There is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but why an aunt, no matter what her size may be, would call her own nephew her uncle? I can't quite make out. Besides, her name isn't Jack at all, it's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest, it's Jack.
You have always told me it was Ernest. I have introduced you to everyone as Ernest. You answer to the name of Ernest. You look as though your name was Ernest. You are the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life. It is absurd. You're saying your name is not Ernest. It's in your cards. Look, here's one now. Ernest Worthing, before the Albany. I will keep this as evidence if you ever attempt to deny that your name is Ernest to me, or Gwendolyn, or anyone else.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country, and the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily, who lives in Tunbridge Wells, calls you her uncle. Come, old boy, you better have the thing out at once.
My dear fellow, you talk exactly as you're a dentist. It is very vulgar to talk like a dentist when one isn't a dentist. It produces a false impression.
Yes, that's what dentists always do. Now, go on, the whole thing. I may mention, I've always suspected you of being a secret and and confirmed Bunburyist, and now I am quite sure of it.
Bumberist? What do you mean by bumberist?
I will reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression when you explain why you were Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
We'll produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now produce your explanation, and pray make it improbable.
My dear fellow, there's nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it is perfectly ordinary. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle from motives of respect that you cannot possibly appreciate, lives in my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
That is nothing to you. You are not going to be invited. I will tell you quite candidly that the place is not Shropshire.
I suspected that. I Bunburied all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on, why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
Algy, I don't know whether you'll be able to understand my real motives. You are hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position of guardian, one must adopt a high moral tone on all subjects. It is one's duty to do so. And as a high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce very much to either one's health or one's happiness, in order to get up to town, I've always pretended to have a younger brother of the name of Earnest, who lives in the Albany and gets in the most dreadful straits. That, my dear Algy, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. What you really are is a Bunburyist. You are one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother in order that you may come up to town whenever you like. Well, I have invented a very useful permanent invalid called Bunbury in order that I may go down to the country whenever I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, for example, I wouldn't be able to dine with you at Willis's tonight, for I've really been engaged to Aunt Augusta for over a week.
I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
I know! You are absurdly careless about sending out invitations. It's very foolish of you. Nothing annoys people so much as not receiving invitations.
You'd better much dine with your Aunt Augusta.
I haven't the slightest intention of doing anything of the kind. In the first place, I dined with her on Monday, and once a week is quite enough to dine with one's own relations. In the second place, whenever I do dine there, I'm always treated as a member of the family, and either sat down with 2 women or none. In the third place, I know perfectly well who Aunt Augusta will place me next to tonight. She will sit me down next to Mary Farker, who always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. It is not very pleasant, it's not even decent, and that sort of thing is enormously on the rise. The amount of women in London who flirt with their own husbands is perfectly scandalous. It's so bad. It's simply washing one's clean linen in public. Besides, now that I know you are a Bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about Bunburying. I want to tell you the rules.
I'm not a Bunburyist at all. If Gwendolyn accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. Indeed, I think I'll kill him in any case. Cecily is far too interested in him. It is rather a bore. So I'm going to get rid of Ernest, and I strongly advise you to do the same with with your invalid friend who has the absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. And if you're going to be married, which seems to me extremely problematic, you'll be very glad to know Bunbury. Anyone who marries without knowing Bunbury has a very tedious time of it.
That is nonsense. If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, and she's the only girl in my life that I ever saw that I would marry, I certainly won't want to know Bunbury.
Then your wife will. You seem to realize in married life, 3 is company, 2 is none.
It's perfectly easy to be cynical.
It isn't easy to be anything nowadays. There's such a lot of beastly competition about. Not much be Aunt Augusta. No one ever rooms in that manner, except relatives or creditors. No, if I get her out of the way for 10 minutes so that you may have an opportunity to propose to Gwendolyn, can I dine with you at Willis's tonight?
I suppose so, if you want to.
Be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about their meals. It's so shallow of them.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, Your Algernon. I hope you are behaving very well.
I'm feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
That's not quite the same thing. In fact, the 2 things rarely go together.
You are smart.
I'm always smart, am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
I hope I'm not that. It would leave no room for development, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry for the little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I haven't been there since her poor husband's death. I've never seen a woman so altered. She looked quite 20 years younger. I know I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta. What?
Gwendolyn, won't you come and sit here?
Thanks, Mama. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Lane, why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, miss. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, not even for ready money.
That will do, Lane. Thank you. Aunt Augusta, I am very distressed about there being no cucumbers, not even for ready money.
It really makes no matter. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury. But I have a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farker. She's such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband. It's delightful to watch them.
I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, I will have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight.
I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he is accustomed to that.
It is a great bore, and I need hardly say a terrible disappointment, but I have just received a message that my poor friend Bunbury is very ill. They seem to think I should be with him.
It's very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, poor Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, Algernon, I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he was going to live or to die. This shilly-shallying with the question is absurd. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last reception, and one wants something to encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season, when everyone has said practically whatever it is they were going to say, which in most cases was probably not much.
I will speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious. But I think I can promise you he'll be all right by Saturday. Of course, the music is a great difficulty. You see, if one plays good music, nobody listens. But if one plays bad music, nobody talks. I'll show the program to you that I've drawn up if you'll come in the other room with me for a moment.
Oh, thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful after a few expurgations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me?
Certainly, Mama.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Don't speak to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I feel quite certain they mean something else, and it makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
And I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mama has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I have often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any other girl I've ever met since I met you.
Well aware of the fact. And I wish that, in public at any rate, you would have been more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. There's something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. From the moment Algernon first mentioned to me she had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
Do you really love me, Gwendolyn?
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Earnest.
But you don't mean to tell me that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Earnest.
But your name is Earnest.
Yes, I know it is, but supposing it was something else. Do you mean to tell me you couldn't love me then?
This is clearly a metaphysical speculation. And like metaphysical speculations, has very little reference at all to the facts of actual life as we know them.
Well, really, Gwendolyn, I don't much care for the name of Earnest. I don't think that name suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
I think there are other much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance. A charming name.
Jack. No. There is very little music in the name Jack, if any at all. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. The only really safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolyn, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married at once. There's no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, surely. You know that I love you, and you led me to believe, Miss Fairfax, that you were not absolutely indifferent.
I adore you. But you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity. And to spare you any feelings of disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I feel it only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I'm fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to... What have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course! Oh, how long you have been about it. I'm afraid you have had very little practice in house.
My own one. I've never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. My girlfriends often tell me so. Wonderful eyes you have, Earnest. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing, rise, sir, from this semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
Mamma, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I'm engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come on a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant, as the case may be. It is hardly a matter she could be allowed to arrange for herself. And now I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I am making these inquiries, Gwendolyn, you will wait for me below in the car.
Mamma!
In the car, Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn, the car.
Yes, Mamma.
You can take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you, you are not down on my list of eligible young men. However, I am quite ready to enter your name, should your answers be what a truly affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
I'm glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I've always thought that the man who wants to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased you did it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. fragrance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in our society at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes. It would probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 700,000 and 800,000 a year.
In land or investments?
In investments chiefly.
That is satisfactory.
I have a country house with some land, and of course attached to it, about 1,500 acres or so, I believe. But I don't depend on that for my real income.
You own a town house, I hope? A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Well, I own a house in Belgrave Square.
What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that may easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary. And now to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. You must have followed. He was evidently a man of some wealth.
I'm afraid I really don't know. The truth is, Lady Bracknell, I said I have lost both my parents. It would be near the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an older gentleman of a charitable and kindly disposition, found me, and he gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex, a seaside resort.
And where did this charitable gentleman with the first-class ticket to the seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I was in a handbag. A somewhat large brown leather handbag with handles to it. An ordinary handbag, in fact.
In what locality did this Mr. Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station.
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. I confess, Mr. Worthing, I am somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life. That reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to.
May I ask you then what you would advise me to do? I need hardly say that I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
I don't see how I can possibly manage to do that. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would allow our only daughter, a girl hard come by and brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good day, Mr. Worthing.
Goodness sake, don't play that ghastly tune now. How idiotic you are.
Did it go off all right? You don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused you.
Oh, as far as she's concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is perfectly unbearable. I've never met such a gorgon. I don't really know what a gorgon is like, but I'm quite sure. At any rate, she's a monster without being a myth, which is rather unfair. I beg your pardon, Algie. I suppose I shouldn't talk about your own aunts in that way before you.
I love hearing my relations abused. It's the only thing that makes me put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people who don't have the smallest knowledge on how to live, nor the remotest instinct on when to die.
That is nonsense. You don't think that there's any chance of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in about 150 years, do you, Algie?
All girls become like their mothers, even the adopted ones. That is their curse. No man does, and that's his.
Is that clever?
It's perfectly worded and quite as true as any observation in civilized life should be.
I'm sick to death of cleverness. Everybody is clever nowadays. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. The thing has become an absolute public nuisance. Goodness, we had a few fools left.
By the way, did you tell Gwendolyn the truth about your being Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, the truth isn't quite the sort of thing one tells to a nice, sweet, refined girl.
What about the profligate Ernest?
Oh, before the end of the week, I shall have got rid of him. I'll say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people die of apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they?
Yes, but it's hereditary. It's the sort of thing that runs in families. You'd better say severe chill.
Very well then. My poor brother Ernest to be carried off suddenly in Paris by a severe chill. That gets rid of him.
Yes, but I thought you said your ward, Miss Cardew, was a little too much interested in your poor brother. Won't she feel his loss a great deal?
Oh, that is quite all right. Cecily is not a silly romantic girl, I'm glad to say. She has a capital appetite, goes on long walks, and pays no attention at all to her lessons.
I'd rather like to meet Cecily.
I'll take very good care you never do. She's excessively pretty and only just 18.
Have you told Gwendolyn that you have an excessively pretty young ward who is only just 18?
Oh, one doesn't go around blurting these things out to people. Cecily and Gwendolyn are perfectly certain to be extremely great friends. I'll bet you anything you like that after half an hour that they have met, they'll be calling each other sister.
Women only call each other that after they've called each other a lot of other things first. Now, if we want to get a good table at Willis's, we must go and dress.
Miss Fairfax.
Auntie, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
My daughter.
Ernest, we may never be married. From the look on Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children have to say to them. Old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else and marry often, there is nothing that she can do that can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Gwendolyn.
The story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mamma with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. Your town address at the Albany I have, but what is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire.
It may be necessary to do something desperate. I'll communicate with you daily.
My own one.
Algie, you may turn around now.
Thanks, I have already.
I'll let me see you to your car, my darling.
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
Glass of sherry, Lane.
Yes, miss.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going bunburying.
Yes, miss.
I don't think I'll show up. I'll be back until Monday. You can put up my dressing clothes, the smoking jackets, and all the Bunbury suits.
Yes, miss.
I hope tomorrow is a good day.
Never is, miss.
You're a perfect pessimist, Lane.
I aim to give satisfaction.
The Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire.
lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German when he's leaving for town.
Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he's so serious I think he cannot possibly be quite well.
Cecily, I am surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, Mr. Burley.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down and visit us sometime. I think we might have good influence over him. I know you certainly would, Miss Prism. You know things like German and geography, and things like that have great influence over a man, don't they?
I'm not sure I would desire to reclaim him. I'm not in favor of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man so let him read. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter all the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary we all carry about with us.
I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels we see nowadays.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novels, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Prism, how wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I hate novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily, and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so. It just seems so unfair. And was your novel ever published?
No, the manuscript unfortunately was mislaid. To your work, child. These speculations are profitless.
But I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up to the garden.
Oh, Dr. Chasuble!
And,
This is indeed a pleasure.
and how are we this morning? Miss Prism, I trust you are well.
Miss Prism is having a slight headache. I thought it would do her much good to have a short walk with you in the park, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, I never mentioned anything about a headache.
Oh, no, I know that, dear Miss Prism, but I felt instinctively that you had one. I was thinking about that, not about my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope, Cicely, you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That's strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. Metaphorically, my metaphor was drawn from these. I shall no doubt see you both at evensong.
I think, dear doctor, I will have a stroll with you. I find I have a headache, and a walk might do it good.
Pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We might go as far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. Oh, Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence. The chapter on the fall of the rupee you may omit. It is somewhat too sensational.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid German.
Miss Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station. She has brought her luggage with her.
Earnest Worthing, B for the Albany. Uncle Jack's sister? But did you tell her that Uncle Jack was in town?
Yes, miss. She seemed very much disappointed. I mentioned you and Miss Prism were in the garden. She said she wanted to speak with you privately for a moment.
Tell Miss Ernest Worthing to come here, and I suppose you'd better speak to the housekeeper about a room for her.
Yes, miss.
I've never met a person who's really wicked before. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid that she'll look just like everyone else. Which she does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You must be under some mistake. I'm not little. In fact, I believe I'm more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. You, I see from your card, are my Uncle Jack's sister, my cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh no, I'm really not that wicked at all, Cecily. You mustn't think I'm wicked. Well, I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, now that you mention the subject, I have been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be quite so proud of that, although I'm sure it was very pleasant.
Well, it's much more pleasant being here with you.
I'm not sure how you can be here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back until Monday afternoon.
Oh, that's a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go up by train the first thing Monday morning. I have a business engagement I'm anxious to miss.
Still, I think you better wait until Uncle Jack arrives. I know he's been anxious to talk to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
You're emigrating? Uncle Jack has gone up to buy your outfit.
I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties.
I don't think you will require neckties, but Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, at dinner Wednesday evening, Uncle Jack said that you'd have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Well, the reports I have received of Australia and the next world are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that. That's why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission, if you don't mind, Cecily.
I'm afraid I have no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind me reforming myself this afternoon?
It is rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You're looking a little worse.
That's because I'm hungry.
How thoughtless of me, I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals.
Thank you.
May I show you?
No, I'd sooner have a pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, Cecily.
I don't think it can be right for you to talk to me like that. Miss Prism never says such things.
Then Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You are the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says that all good looks are a snare.
A snare every sensible woman would like to get caught in.
I don't think I should like to catch a sensible woman. I wouldn't know what to talk to her about.
You are too much alone, dear Dr. Chaswell. You should get married.
The precept, as well as the practice of the primitive church, was distinctly against matrimony.
That is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. And you do not seem to realize, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray. Where's Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing!
Mr. Worthing.
This is indeed a surprise. We did not expect you till Monday afternoon.
I returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Chaswell, I hope you are well.
Dear Mr. Worthing, I hope this gob of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother,
More shameful debts and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure?
dead.
Your brother Earnest, dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
You have my sincere condolences. You can always have the consolation of knowing you were always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Ernest. He had many faults, but this is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad in Paris, in fact. I have a message last night from the manager at the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am very susceptible to drafts. Will the interment take place here?
No. He seems to have expressed a sincere desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris. I fear that points to no serious state of mind at the last. You would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion, joyous or, in this case, distressing. I've preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmation, on days of humiliation, and festival days.
Oh, that reminds me, Dr. Chasuble, you mentioned christenings. I'm sure you know how to christen all right. I mean, you are continually christening, aren't you?
It is one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish.
But, Mr. Worthing, is there any particular infant you're interested in? Your brother was he not, unmarried?
Oh, yes. But it is not for any mere child, dear doctor. The fact is, I would like to be christened myself this afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
Well, certainly you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
But do you have any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have. Of course, I don't know if that they would bother you in any way, or if you think that I'm a little too old now.
Oh, certainly not. The sprinkling and, indeed, the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice. What hour would you wish the ceremony performed?
Oh, I might trot round about 5 if that suits you.
Oh, perfectly, perfectly. Now, I will not intrude into a house of sorrow any longer. I merely beg of you not to be too bowed down by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
Uncle Jack! Oh, I'm so pleased to see you back! What horrid clothes are you wearing? Don't change.
Cecily!
Uncle Jack, what is the matter? Do look happy. You look as if you had a toothache, and I've got such a surprise for you.
Who do you think is in the dining room?
Your sister! Your sister, Ernest. She arrived about a half hour ago.
What nonsense. I haven't got a sister.
Uncle Jack, don't say that. However badly she may have behaved to you in the past, she is still your sister. You wouldn't be so heartless as to disown her. I'll tell her to come out, and you will shake hands with her, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are, very glad tidings.
Good heavens!
John, I've come down from town to tell you I'm very sorry for all the trouble I've given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your sister's hand.
Nothing to just me to take her hand. I think her coming down here disgraceful. She knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me all about her poor invalid friend who she goes to visit so much. And surely there is much good in one who is kind to an invalid and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
Oh, she's been talking about Bunbury, has she?
Yes, she's been telling me all about Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health. I admit, of course, all the faults were on my side. But Brother John's coldness to me is peculiarly painful. I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering this is the first time I've been here. Jack, if you do not shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never!
Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
It is pleasant, is it not, to see perfect reconciliation? I think we should leave these two alone.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism, my little task of reconciliation is done.
How do you scoundrel? You have to get out of this place as soon as possible. I don't allow Bunbury here.
Sir, I've taken Miss Ernest's luggage and unpacked it and put it in the room next to your own. I suppose that is all right.
What?
Ernest's luggage, I have unpacked it. Put it in the room next to your own.
Her luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, 2 hat boxes, a dressing case, and a large lunch basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
No, Merriman. Ernest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I haven't been called back into town.
Yes, you have.
No, I haven't had anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures to the slightest degree.
I can quite understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You are not to talk to Miss Cardew like that, and I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why on earth don't you go up and change? It is perfectly childish to be in deep mourning for a woman who is actually staying a whole week with you in your house as your guest. I call it grotesque.
You are certainly not staying with me for a whole week as a guest or anything else. You have got to leave at 4:05.
Well, I certainly won't leave you as long as you're in mourning. It would be most unkind of me. If I were in deep mourning, you would stay with me, I suppose. I would think it most unfriendly if you didn't.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you're not too long about it. I've never seen someone take so long to dress with such little result.
Well, at any rate, it is better than being always overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by always being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous, your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. However, you have got to catch the 4:05, and I hope you will have a pleasant journey back to town. This bumbering, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
Well, I think it's been a great success. I am in love with Cecily, and that is everything. Oh, I just came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack. He's going to send me away. Then have we got to part? I'm afraid so. It's a very painful parting.
It's always painful to part from people one's known for a very short space of time. The absence of old friends can be endured with magnanimity, but even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you.
It can wait for 5 minutes.
Cecily, I hope I do not offend you if I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the visible personification, absolute perfection. Your frankness does you great credit, Ernest.
With your permission, I'd like to copy your remarks down into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to read it, may I?
Oh, no. It is merely a very young girl's record of all her thoughts and impressions, and therefore is intended for publication. When it goes out, I hope you'll order a copy. But now, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. Do go on. I'm quite ready for more.
Cecily! Ever since I first looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think you should say that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily, wildly?
The driver is waiting, miss.
Tell him to come around next week at the same hour.
Yes, miss.
Uncle Jack would be quite annoyed if he knew that you were staying on until next week at the same hour.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anyone in this world but you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Of course! Oh, why, we've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother, sister, who was very wicked and bad, you of course have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism, and a woman who's much talked about is always very attractive. One thinks there must be something in her after all. dare say it was foolish of me that I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Oh, darling. And when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to settle the matter one way or the other. And after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under that dear old tree there. The very next day, I went out and bought this little ring in your name. And here is the true lover's knot I promised you always to wear.
Oh, did I give that to you? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you have wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given for your leading such a bad life. And here is the box where I keep all your dear letters.
My letters. My sweet Cecily, I've never written you any letters.
There's no need to remind me of that, Ernest. I know perfectly well that I was forced to write all your letters for you. I wrote always 3 times a week, sometimes more.
Oh, do let me read them.
Of course not. It would make you far too conceited. Why, the 3 you wrote me after I broke off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled. Even today, I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course it was. On the 22nd of last March. You can read the entry if you like. I have broken off the engagement with Ernest. I feel it's for the best. The weather still continues charming.
But what had I done? Well, I had done nothing at all. Cecily, I'm very much hurt indeed to learn that you had broken off our engagement, particularly when the weather was so charming.
Well, it had been a really serious engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. And I forgave you before the week was out.
You perfect angel.
You dear romantic girl.
You won't break off our engagement again, will you?
I don't think I could break it off again now that I've met you. Of course, there is the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
You mustn't laugh at me, darling, but it had always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Earnest. There's something in that name that just inspires absolute confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose partner is not called Earnest.
But my dear child, do you mean to say that you couldn't love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
Any name. Algernon, for example.
But I don't like the name Algernon.
My dear, sweet, loving, little darling, I really can't see why you would object to the name of Algernon. It is not at all a bad name. In fact, it's a rather aristocratic name. Half of the chaps who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, if my name was Algie, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I'm afraid I'm not being able to give you my full attention.
Cecily, your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in all the practices and ceremonials of the church.
Oh yes, Dr. Chadwell is a very learned man. He's never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must be with once on a most important christening, I mean business.
Oh!
I won't be away more than half an hour.
Considering that we have been engaged since last February the 14th, and I've only just met you for the very first time today, it seems a little hard that you would leave me for so long a period as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 2 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
Oh, what a closet girl. I like her hair so much. There's such a proposal in my diary.
Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing on very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
Mr. Worthing went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Tell Miss Fairfax she may wait for him here. And you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much after knowing me for such a relatively short amount of time. Pray sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
Oh, with pleasure.
And you'll always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
If you wish.
Then that is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
This may be a favorable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You've never heard of Papa, I suppose?
I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I'm glad to say, is entirely unknown. That is quite as it should be. Cecily, Mama, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It's a part of the system. So, do you mind my looking on you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, dear Gwendolyn. I quite enjoy being looked at.
Oh, you are here on a short visit, I suppose?
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? And your mother, or some female relation of advanced years, resides here also?
Oh, no, I have no mother, no relations of any kind.
Indeed.
My guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
I'm Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh! This stranger has never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive. This person grows more interesting hourly. I'm afraid I cannot say, however, that the news brings me feelings of unmixed delight. I'm very fond of you, Cecily. I've liked you ever since I met you. But now that I know you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help but expressing a wish that you were, well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly,
Pray, do. I think that whenever anyone has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
well, to speak with perfect candor, Cecily, I wish you were a full 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. Ernest is the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty would be as impossible to Ernest as deception. But even those of the highest possible moral character are highly susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history, has many most painful examples of what I refer to. Indeed, if it were not so, history would be quite unreadable.
Did you say Ernest Worthing?
Yes?
Oh, but it's not Ernest who is my guardian. It's Ernest's older brother?
Ernest never mentioned anything about a brother.
Oh, I'm sorry to say they have not been on good terms for a long time.
That accounts for it. Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would be terrible if any cloud had come over a friendship like ours, would it not? Of course, you are quite certain it's not Ernest Worthing who's your guardian.
Quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be Ernest's.
I beg your pardon?
Dearest Gwendolyn, there is no reason for me to make a secret of it to you. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My dear Cecily, I'm afraid there must be some slight error. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear on the Morning Post on Saturday, at the latest.
You must be under some misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is certainly very curious, for Ernest asked for my hand yesterday at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so. I am so sorry, dear Cecily, if it's any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolyn, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish. But since Ernest proposed you, she clearly has changed her mind.
If Ernest has been entrapped into any foolish promises, I consider it my duty to rescue him at once with a firm hand.
Do you suggest, Miss Faircastle, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? But this is no time for the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
no, thank you. Sugar's not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread?
Bread and butter. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
You have put lumps of sugar into my tea, and though I asked most specifically for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Carter, you may go too far.
To protect my poor, innocent, trusting Ernest from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I thought you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many more calls of a similar nature to make in the neighborhood.
Ernest! My own Ernest!
Gwendolyn, darling!
A moment. Are you engaged to this young lady?
To dear little Cecily, of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you, you may.
Miss Fairfax, I knew there must be some misconception. You see, the man whose arm is at present from your waist is my guardian, John Worthing.
I beg your pardon?
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack!
Oh, here, Ernest, my own love.
A moment. Are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
You may.
I felt there must be some slight error. The woman who you are now embracing is Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief? Oh! You call Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. But my name certainly is John. It's been John for years.
Gross deception has been practiced on both of us.
My poor wounded Cecily. Gwendolyn, you will call me sister, won't you?
There's just one question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthy, there is just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is Ernest? We are both engaged to your sibling named Ernest, so it is a matter of some importance to us to know where Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it is very painful for me to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life that I've ever been reduced to such a position, and I'm quite inexperienced in doing anything like that. However, I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother or sibling, Ernest. I have no siblings at all. I never had a sibling in my life, and I certainly have not the smallest intention of ever having one in the future. None.
Had you never a brother of any kind?
Never. Not even of any kind.
I'm afraid it is quite clear, dear Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It's not a very pleasant position for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it?
Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us there.
No. Deviants are so cowardly, aren't they?
This ghastly state of things is what you call bumbering, I suppose.
Yes. And what a wonderful bunbury it is. The most wonderful bunbury I've had in my life.
The only small satisfaction I have in the whole of this wretched situation is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to run down to the country as often as you used to get out eating. A very good thing, too.
Your brother is a little off color, isn't he, dear Jack? You won't be able to disappear to London quite so frequently as your wicked custom was, and not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, I find that taking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that quite inexcusable, to say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
Well, I can see no possible defense at all for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, and thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax. To say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
Your adopted cousin.
Yes, but I still like her.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolyn, that is all. I love her.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There is certainly no chance of you marrying Miss Cardew.
I don't see much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
That is no business of yours.
I wouldn't talk about it if it was. It's very vulgar to talk about one's own business. Only people like stockbrokers do that.
How can you calmly sit there eating muffins when you're in this horrible trouble I can't make out? You seem to me to be perfectly heartless.
I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter would probably get on my cuffs. One should always eat muffins quite calmly. It's the only way to eat them.
I say it's perfectly heartless that you're eating muffins at all under the circumstances.
When I am in trouble, food is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I am in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except food and drink. At the present moment, I am eating muffins because I am unhappy! Besides, I'm particularly fond of muffins.
Well, that is no reason why you should eat them all in that greedy way.
I wish I would have tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
You just said that was perfectly heartless.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you under the circumstances. That's the I wish to goodness you would go.
You can't possibly ask me to go without having some dinner first. It is absurd! I never go without my meals. No one ever does except vegetarians and people like that! Besides, I just made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:45 under the name Earnest.
Well, the sooner you give us that nonsense, the better. I made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5, and I naturally will take on the name of Earnest. Gwendolyn would wish it. We both can't be christened Earnest. It's absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I like. There's absolutely no evidence I've ever been christened by anybody. I find it extremely probable I never was, and so does Dr. Chasuble. It is entirely different in your case. You have been christened already.
Yes, but I haven't been christened in years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That's the important thing.
Quite so. So I know my constitution can stand it. If you are not quite so sure about your ever having been christened, I think it's rather dangerous of you venturing on it now. It might make you very unwell. You must not have forgotten that someone very closely connected to you was this week in Paris very nearly carried off by a severe chill.
You said yourself a severe chill wasn't hereditary.
I dare say it is now.
That is nonsense! You are always talking nonsense!
Jack, you were at the muffins again. There are only 2 left, and I told you I'm fond of them.
I hate tea cake.
Then why on earth do you want me to be served to your guests?
I've already told you to go. I don't want to hear it till you go.
I haven't finished my tea yet. And there's still 1 muffin left.
Well, the fact that they did not follow us at once into the house as anyone would have done seems to show they have some sense of shame left.
They've been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
At all. Couldn't you cough?
I haven't got a cough.
They're looking at us.
They're approaching. That is very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly, it's the only thing to do.
silence seems to produce a most unpleasant effect.
Most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, I have much depends on your reply.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Miss Moncrief, kindly answer for me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's sister?
So that I might have an opportunity to meet you, of course.
That seems a satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe her.
I don't. That attracts the wonderful beauty of her answer.
True. In matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing! What explanation can you offer me for pretending to have a brother?
Well,
Was it in order that you might come up to town to see me as often as possible?
can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts on the subject, but I intend to crush them. Their answers appear to be satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's, that has the stamp of truth upon it.
What Miss Moncrief said, her voice alone inspires absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes, I need to know.
I had forgotten. There are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us shall tell them?
Could we not both tell them at the same time?
An excellent idea. Will you take the time for me?
Certainly.
Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier, that is all.
Our Christian names?
Is that all?
But we
are
are going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you are prepared to do this terrible thing.
I am.
To please me, you're prepared to undertake this fearful ordeal?
I am.
Darling.
Lady Bracknell.
What does this mean?
Merely that I'm engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, I followed her at once by a luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression she is attending a more than usually lengthy lecture by the University Extension Scheme on the influence of a permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on any question. I would consider it wrong. But of course, you will understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as concerning Algernon.
Yes, Augusta.
May I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, resides?
Oh, Bunbury. No, Bunbury is not here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury's dead.
Dead? When did Mr. Bunbury die?
I
His
killed
death must have been extremely sudden.
I killed Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, poor Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury? Well, he was quite exploded. Exploded.
Exploded!
Exploded.
Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation.
My dear Aunt Augusta, Mr. Bunbury was found out. I mean, the doctors found out, is what I mean to say, that Bunbury could not live, and so Bunbury died.
He seems to have had great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. I am glad to say, however, that he finally made up his mind at the last to some definite course of action and acted upon proper medical advice. And now that we have finally got rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask Mr. Worthing, who is that young person whose hand my niece Algernon is now holding in what seems to me a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon.
Miss Moncrief and I are engaged to be married.
I do not know whether there is something peculiarly exciting in the air of this particular part of the country, but the number of engagements that go on seem to be considerably above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I think some preliminary inquiries on my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Gervase Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Strand, Fifeshire.
That sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
Merriman, Miss Cardew's family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby, and Markby, a firm of the very highest position in their profession. So far, I am satisfied.
You will also be pleased to hear that I have in my possession certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles, both the German and the English variety.
Oh, a life crowded with incident, I see. Though perhaps a little too exciting for a young girl. I myself am not in favor of premature experiences. Come, Gwendolyn, the time approaches for our departure. We haven't a moment to lose. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask you if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, just about £16.5 million in the funds, that is all. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £16.5 million? And in the funds? Miss Cardew seems to me a most attractive young lady. Now that I look at her, we live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces. And come over here, dear. Oh, yes, pretty child. Your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems almost as nature might have left it. But we can soon alter all that. A thoroughly experienced French maid produces a really marvelous result in a very brief space of time. I remember recommending one to young Lady Lansing, and after 3 months, her own husband did not know her.
And after 6 months, nobody knew her.
Yes, quite as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The 2 weak points of our age are its want of principle and its want of profile. The chin a little higher, dear. Style largely depends on the way the chin is worn. They are worn very high, just at present. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
there are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the prettiest, dearest, sweetest girl in the world, and I don't care 2 pence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can get into it do that. My dear child, of course you know that Algernon has nothing but her debts to depend upon. But I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind. But I never dreamed for a moment of allowing that to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better take place quite soon. To speak frankly, I do not approve of long engagements. They give people the opportunity of finding out each other's character before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is quite out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. And that consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, I may almost say, an ostentatiously eligible young woman. She has nothing, but looks everything. What more could one desire?
It pains me very much to have to speak frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, about your niece, but I don't approve at all of her moral character. I suspect her of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My niece Algernon?
I fear there can be no possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London on an important question of romance, she obtained admission to my house by means of the false pretense of being my sister. Under an assumed name, she drank, I've just been informed by my butler, an entire pint bottle of my Perrier Jouet Brut 89 wine I was specially reserving for myself. Disgraced for deception, she succeeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. She subsequently stated that she had devoured every single muffin. Heartless is that she was perfectly well from the first that I have no brother, that I never had a sister, and that I don't intend to have a sibling, not even of any kind. I distinctly told her so myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I have decided entirely to overlook my niece's conduct to you.
Oh, how very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. But my own decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Come over here, sweet child. How old are you, dear?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always admit to 20 when I'm at evening parties.
You are quite right in making some slight alteration. Indeed, no one should ever be quite accurate about their age. 18, but admitting to 20 at evening parties. Well, it will not be very long until you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So I don't think your guardian's consent is, after all, a matter of any concern.
Pray excuse me, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you again, but it is only fair to tell you that according to her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come legally of age until she is 35.
That does not seem to be a grave objection. 35 is a very attractive age. Our society is full of women of the very highest birth who have, of their own free choice, remained 35 for years.
Algie, could you wait for me until I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I knew it instinctively. But I couldn't wait all that time. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for anybody. It always makes me rather cross. I'm not punctual myself, but I admire punctuality in others, and waiting, even to be married, is out of the question.
Then what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Miss Longcrease.
Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait till she is 35, a remark which I am bound to say seems to me to show a somewhat impatient nature. I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
My dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolyn, I will gladly allow your niece to form an alliance with my lord.
You must be quite aware that what you propose is out of the question.
Then a passionate celibacy is all that we can look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolyn. Algernon, of course, may choose for herself. Come, dear, we have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more may subject us to comment on the platform.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christenings, sir? Is that not somewhat premature?
These two have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age! The idea is
I to believe that there will be no christenings this afternoon?
I'm afraid that as things are now, it'll be of very little use to each of us, Dr. Chasuble.
I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. However, since your mood seems to be particularly secular, I shall return to the church at once. I have just been informed that for the last hour and a half, the pew opener has told me that Miss Prism has been waiting for me at the vestry.
Miss Prism! Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
That's right, Lady Bracknell. I'm on my way to join her.
Pray, allow me to detain you for a moment. This matter may prove to be of vital importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect, remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies, and the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches.
I was told you expected to be in the vestry, dear doctor. I've been waiting for you for an hour and a half.
Prism! Come here, Prism! Prism, where is that baby? 28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104 Upper Grosvenor Street, in charge of a perambulator that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, through the elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered at midnight, standing by itself in a remote corner of Bayswater. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of more than usually revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day you mentioned, a day that is forever branded on my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in its perambulator. I had with me also a somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction I had written during my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction for which I never can forgive myself, I placed the manuscript in the bassinet and put the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton Line.
Gwendolyn, wait here for me.
If you are not his mom, I'll wait for you all my life.
Uncle Jack seems strangely agitated.
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
Oh, the suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
This is the handbag, Miss Prism. Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
It appears to be mine. Oh, yes, here on the lining is a stain caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage. And here on the lock are my initials. I had forgotten in an extravagant mood I had had them placed there. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I am delighted to have it so unexpectedly restored to me. It has been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Miss Prism, much more is restored to you than this handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes, mother!
Oh, Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried!
Unmarried? Who has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Mother, I forgive you!
Mr. Worthing! There is some error. There is the woman who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, I didn't seem inquisitive, but would you kindly inform me of who I am?
You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
unfortunate sister! My unfortunate sister! Algie, you scoundrel! You will have to treat me with more respect in the future. You never treated me like a brother in all your life.
I was out of practice until today, I must admit.
My own. But what own are you? What is your Christian name now that you've become someone else?
I quite forgot that point. Your decision on the subject of my name is irrevocable, I suppose.
I never change except in affections.
The question had better be cleared up at once. Not Augusta, a moment. At the time that Miss Prism left me in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Yes, I believe you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall what the general's Christian name was. I have no doubt he had one.
Algie, can't you recollect what our father's Christian name was?
We were never on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear on the army list of the period, I suppose.
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. But I have no doubt the general's name would appear on any military directory.
The army lists of the last 40 years are here. These records should have been my constant study. M. Generals. Malum, Maximum, Magley, what ghastly names they have. Markby, McD, Mobs, Moncrief, Lieutenant General, Christian names. I always told you, Gwendolyn, that my name was Earnest, didn't I? Well, it is Earnest after all. I mean, it naturally is Earnest.
My own Ernest! I thought from the start you could have no other name.
Gwendolyn, it is a terrible thing for a man to find out quite suddenly that all his life he has been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you forgive me?
Certainly, for I feel you are sure to change.
My darling.
Letitia.
Frederick! At last! Cecily?
At last.
Gwendolyn, at last.
My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, it is the first time in my life that I've now realized the vital importance of being earnest.